Hey everybody, it's Mike Gable up here on Norris Lake in Tennessee with Kevin and Mike, and actually just doing a testimonial about a VARA Foil they purchased approximately a year and a half ago, and they've had it up here for a couple seasons and been able to dial it in. And what's incredible about it is they've tried 2 different engines with it, and so we asked Mike and Kevin to sit down and maybe talk a little bit about the pluses and minuses of having a VARA Foil on their Bennington 22, and just a little bit about the engine changes that they did. And from there, Mike, maybe you can tell us about the 90 horsepower, and that was a Mercury, I believe.
Right, yeah, we started with the motor that was on the pontoon boat. It was a 90 horsepower Mercury 4-stroke, which is a very good motor. We were kind of looking for a little more speed than the 22 to 23 miles per hour, and I was searching on the internet and came up to the pontoon application website, and was impressed with the design of the VARA Foil and thought I'd give it a try. And we purchased the VARA Foil, installed it, which was pretty easy. We had one little hiccup where we had to kind of invert the angle, support angle, but that wasn't a big issue. But we got that installed, and we started out where the instructions, and Mike told us where to put the center line of the VARA Foil. We put that in that spot, and it worked fairly well. We got up to I think 34 or 35 at the first setup, and we're trying to get used to the trim. And sometimes we'd put the trim up a little bit too much, and we'd be popping a wheelie, which was kind of cool actually. It was kind of neat to see that and feel that. And the heads would kind of turn. People passing us by would see us popping a wheelie and be looking over there. They'd look twice and wonder what the heck was going on. But it was a lot of fun, and we had started out with a 13-inch prop, and we were just over revving like crazy, and we went with 3 or 4 different prop changes, and finally ended up with a 17-inch pitch 4-blade prop. And we went from 22 to 23 miles per hour to 37 to 38. And sometimes we would see a quick GPS value of, like, we'd go up to like 39. Wouldn't quite hit 40, but I knew it was kind of just around the corner. But we ended up with a 17-inch prop, and it was just night and day from the beginning of the 22 to 23 miles per hour, and it was real smooth running,
and
quiet, and just kind of a pleasure to drive. I mean, with the 4-stroke. Then after that, we thought, well, we would just do a quick change, and we had a spare motor laying around, and it was a 225, which it's a 2-stroke motor, which was within the weight range of what the boat was kind of rated for. It weighed like 375 pounds versus the 4-stroke was about the same. Yeah, it was about the same weight. So we thought, well, we'd be pretty safe there. So we thought we'd give that a try. And before we put the VARA Foil back on, we thought, well, heck, we'd try it without the VARA Foil, and we were at 30,
Right around
37, 38 miles an hour, I think is what top speed was.
on a 19 pitch prop.
Yeah, on a 19-inch pitch, and it was really it was just plowing the water. I mean, we were just losing the horsepower due to the resistance of the water, I guess. But
So even with the larger motor on there, you weren't getting bow lift
right,
at all.
Right.
correct, yeah.
Wow.
And it was a handful to drive too.
Yeah.
'Cause, I mean, you imagine the motor having the force you had to put on the steering to till all that boat in the water as well. But when we put the full back on it, it changed the game after that.
Yeah, but prior to that, we tried different. We wanted to see what the maximum speed we could get. We tried a manual jack plate with different settings, and I think we finally got it up to near 40 miles per hour. What was the maximum we could get out of it with the 225, and that's when we decided, well, heck, we'll just put the VARA Foil back on. We took the jack plate, manual jack plate off, and put the 225 on, put the VARA Foil on, and kept it in the same setting, I believe.
And it immediately shot up to almost scary speeds for a pontoon boat.
Yeah, we were getting up to around 48 to 50 at the first, and then we started messing with the foil. We'd adjust it forward and adjust it stern and try to get the best possible setting
For all around use.
for all around use. Yeah.
So you'd be able to carry weight when you want to and still be able to cruise 40, 45 and be fairly fuel efficient at the same time.
What prop did you guys finally settle in?
Right now we're settled in on a 20 pitch inertia prop. It's 14 and 3/4 diameter. We had a trophy 21 pitch that did real well 4-blade, but it didn't have the bite that 3-blade does with that bigger surface area on it. They both net about the same speed, and it still needs more propeller to it as well. But for all around use, with loaded or unloaded, it's perfectly set up in my opinion now.
Yeah, so we finally went from about a 40 mile per hour maximum speed to about a anywhere from a 55 to a 58 mile an hour, fairly consistent speed. But even with that speed, there's still a little more room.
A lot left on the table.
Oh yeah. I mean, sometimes we're still over revving with the 20-inch prop, and we could possibly go to 21, 22-inch, or we may have to increase our RPM on our CPU a little bit so we can kind of take advantage of that. But I think we would be surpassing the 60 mile per hour mark fairly consistently here very soon. So.
All right, we look forward to hearing about that. So you talked about props a little bit. Did you guys ever compare, on the 90 or the 225 change out, did you ever compare an aluminum prop versus a stainless prop
Yes.
to see what the speed difference were?
The original on the 90 4-stroke, it came with a 13 pitch aluminum 3-blade, Quicksilver prop. And it did good, but it was over revving, obviously, because with the boat out of the water, the motor didn't have to work at the same speed as before. It was like 22, 23, and I think it netted like low 30s with that one. Then we went to we tested with a couple of Quicksilver Nemesis props, 15 pitch.
Was that aluminum?
Yeah, it was aluminum, and it did really good. It brought the speed up into the mid to upper 30s in, and then finally we broke down and bought a new I think it was a turning point propeller, a 4-blade 17 pitch, smaller diameter, still in the 13 and a quarter range, but it loved it. I mean, it bit the water. Its slip numbers way down on it compared to the aluminum. And they had the benefit of another 3 to 4 mile an hour gain on top of that. I mean, it was, for a 4-stroke 90 to run right at 40, it's doing something right.
Yeah, we went through several different props.
Yeah, the cheaper aluminum ones. Now,
Yeah,
when you get into the ones for the bigger motor, they even used, there's still money for a nice prop.
Yeah, it's much better to try to get your pitch diameter with the cheaper aluminum props, and then go with the more expensive stainless steel after you figure out what's the best pitch to use.
Have nice enough friends that have props to let you try out too. Because we brought a bundle of them up one day without the foil on it. And that kind of got us an idea where it needed to be dialed in even without the foil. And we're still right in that. I think he's saying 21 or 22. I'm going to fall on a 23 pitch at probably at a 14.5 diameter is where it's going to love it at on a 4-blade.
So that's what you're going to...
Yeah, that's what I'm going to try to find next. Either that or even if I can find the older high 5 props that Mercury made, the 5 blades, I think that would be a really good one for it as well.
Yeah, plus we're going to try a different gear case as well. Right now it's
2-to-1 ratio.
Gear case, and we've got a 1.87 that we want to try, and that should help as well. Because I think it would. That still would be okay for our application.
Just got to get her set in and dialed in a little bit for that wall I think we're getting ready to hit right now. And that's been my fun job here lately, is trying to figure out how to make it work around it.
Yeah, I think the 1.87 gear case will get us a little more consistent as far as speed-wise goes, and maybe not so much the
acceleration part.
Well, as far as the fuel mileage might be a little bit different, or
yeah, it may suffer a little bit there, but
because you want to just keep you want to keep that throttle down all the time because it's so fun.
Yeah, you got that right. Went out with these guys yesterday and just had a great time. And also, maybe educationally, talk a little bit about the plate on the motor. So the VARA plate that initially on the 90 you were using the standard VARA plate, which we supplied with the kit, right? And then, but when you went to the 225, I think you initially started out with no plate, right?
Yeah, no plate at all on it, and it did great. Good, but with the plate on it, very little trim changes are needed with the plate on it to find that sweet spot versus without it. And it seems to want to stay hooked up a lot better with the plate on it as well.
Right.
Yeah, we're still kind of working that out a little bit. So and that's the fun part. It's a little bit of a learning curve when you get to the higher 50s, around 60 or 60 plus. It's a little different animal to figure out, but we're about there.
So yesterday, Kevin, we were talking just a little bit about some of the maintenance things because we had a little problem, right? A little hiccup yesterday. But maybe you could talk a little bit to the everyday guy who's out there running a motor with a hydrofoil, or even without a hydrofoil, about making sure that maintenance-wise that they're getting top top production out of their motor.
You don't have to be too anal retentive about it, but you want to be up on getting your injectors clean at least once a season or once every other season. Doing your gear case maintenance, your oil, making sure you're not leaking anything. Around here we have a big problem with getting fishing lines back inside behind the props, and that'll start eating your gear case seals up real bad too, and you'll never know it if the boat's in the water all the time until it's too late. And
well, keeping your bottom cleaned off will be helpful, and your foil. We like I was telling Mike, we haven't cleaned our pontoon bottom in probably over a year or
and
more.
a half.
Yeah, we've left it in the water, and there's a little algae growth on there, and we cleaned it. I mean, we were still getting actually pretty decent speeds without being clean, but to get the maximum, it's good to keep that clean.
Yeah, that's a good point. You know, even on a lake, you're getting growth on there, and you may not realize it. What I was surprised is that how we had hopped in yesterday to actually clean the tunes, and there wasn't that much what I felt was slime or algae. I don't know what you guys call it, but there wasn't that much on there, probably because of the speeds you're doing.
Yeah, well, I mean, we run it regularly too in the summertime, in spring, and fall. So it's getting ran at least once or twice a week, if not more. And when we're not up much with it and it's still up here, we still try to get up at least once or twice a month in the cold season. And, you know, keeping them running regularly, well, that also helps keep a motor good and, you know, in good health. Because you don't want to get stale fuel and everything else in it. Even using stabilizer, that only helps to a certain extent in your fuel.
Yeah, another thing also with the higher speeds and of course the little heavier pontoon boats, we right now we have cable steering that we're having to kind of contend with, and it takes quite a bit of effort to keep it straight sometimes, especially in rough water in the winds. We're going to switch to hydraulic steering here pretty soon, and that would be recommended with you know, any boat that's probably going, I believe around probably 40, 45 or more.
Probably be best to have it on there anyway.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So that'll make a lot of be more comfortable driving and more how do you
positive feedback on the steering.
Well, yeah, so you're more confident with it, and it may not slow the boat down as much when you're having to kind of fight it from one going left to right. But
Hold on to it is hard.
oh yeah.
Especially
With the 90
wind.
horsepower, it wasn't too bad. It was actually pretty comfortable still. But sometimes when he'd over trim or something, and it would kind of fall down a little bit, it would kind of jerk you a little bit. But it
wasn't scary bad, but
yeah,
it was enough to keep you on your toes.
right, yeah.
How about you know, you talk about these speeds, right? What have you guys hit anything with the hydrofoil that you know of?
I've hit a couple of small, like probably limbs and stuff at nighttime, but I'm not running much over 30, 35 at the most at night.
Right. Yeah,
now, if you get a full moon out and it's smooth, I might push it to like 40, 45, but I'm not going any faster than that.
Yeah, once in a blue moon, you'll hear a kind of a thunk. Yeah, I mean.
But I check it every time, and it hadn't even dented it. I mean, yeah. I think the most I've done to it is like scratch the outer fins from getting, you know, on a couple of rocks going up close to shore, but I never really had any issues with it getting hung up on anything or anything like trash getting stuck on it like that. And I did see a lot of people asking, you know, well, what happens if you hit something? Or can you pull up on shore with it? Well, yeah, you can pull up on shore with it. I mean, it's usually about that far off the bottom, pulling up almost to like an incline like that. And it's still clear to the bottom. And the way it's bolted in and everything, it's just as strong as any, if not stronger than any of the tubes on the bottom. I'd be more worried about putting a hole in the bottom of a tube than I would bending or breaking that thing in half. Because, I mean, it's sturdy.
You guys,
very sturdy.
Do you have a lot of twigs and logs? Or
the first of the year we do. When the water comes up.
Springtime, yeah.
Yeah, because like when we were running yesterday, it seemed like I didn't see a lot in the water.
Yeah, but right this time of year.
Small, too.
This time of year it's not bad at all. But when they first bring the water back up and it washes off the shorelines, it can be pretty hectic sometimes.
All right, so is there anything that you guys may want to talk about from the positive? Like, is there any strong points from the positive?
I mean,
and on the same token, is there strong points on the negative of the hydro?
They're all
positive. I mean, it's loads of fun. I mean,
you can do wheelies in it.
Being quiet, of course, with the larger motor and the two-stroke, it's a little bit noisy, and I'd rather have a four-stroke, a little larger motor. But other than that, I mean, like with the 90 horsepower, the 4-stroke, oh my gosh, it's so quiet. I mean, just almost no noise from the water, from the wake of the boat. You know, the spray, and
It goes
it's
from
like you're just floating in air. It's like it's like you're cushioned.
But
And-
it goes from you hearing the splash with the 4-stroke. It goes from hearing the splash, and then it just elevates, and then it goes quiet, and then you just hear the motor, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, and you can trim it up more. Like I say, you can do a wheelie over real high wake boat waves and just go right over them, and it's real neat. And going over, like one day we were out in we've got a speedboat, and it was Kevin probably remembers.
Yeah, about
there was
5, 6
waves,
foot
I
waves.
swear, 5 foot high, and we thought we were goners.
Gonna flip.
It was like we were in the ocean in tsunamis or something, because you'd look next
couldn't
to
see-
you and there'd be a wall of water.
Yeah, you couldn't
and
see
we were
over
literally
them.
going up and down. But if we had the pontoon boat out there, I think we would have with that hydrofoil on there, we could have just put the bow up and just
I still would have
right
been
through it.
sketched out in it that day. Those were
Those
probably the
were-
worst ones I've seen.
never been in stuff like that before, but I mean, as far as negatives, the only negative I could see, if you're not that familiar with how it operates, like maybe a younger person driving or something, if they're not instructed and they hit the trim or something, they could, be kind of scared, because there was a couple times where I was driving. I think I was by myself, and I trimmed it up too much, and I mean, I was it'll get up there, so you got to be kind of a little mindful about that. But I mean,
So, like, are you talking about the porpoising where you come out and then you re-enter?
Yeah.
sorta, yeah,
Back into normal pontoon?
yeah.
Where
Yeah.
it would just shoot up real high at first, like
But-
when it's
but
coming
if-
up on it.
Yeah, but if you're trimmed down, anybody could drive it. It's going to be basically like a
regular
regular
pontoon?
pontoon boat or so, where you can be just plowing through the water.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, for those of you out there, if you just keep the trim tilt all the way down, generally you won't even foil it. You'll just be a normal pontoon boat. And I think we have that in our FAQs on the website. You can see that. But like, maybe if you guys could talk a little bit more about that porpoising, so people understand that, hydrofoil, once it comes out of the water, it doesn't work. Right?
Yeah, it
It's not an
definitely
airplane wing, so.
That's the sketchy part sometimes, especially when you're like me pushing for a little bit more speed out of it. There's a point where you can't go any further past it, and you'll find out quick where it's at. I mean, it's not very scary when it happens, but you'll definitely feel it. But you can find that sweet spot right below it. I've always noticed, like, it'll want to porpoise right before it starts to do that. And if I just bump it down one more bump on trim, it levels out and it glides. The easiest way to explain it.
Good point. Good point. What about throttle? Do you ever have to back off on throttle, like on?
Oh, with the big motor, I do. But that's just because we're still in the setup phases of it, tinkering around with it. For the most part, I can run it wide open and get it right in the mid 50s, no problem, and leave it there. It's just, getting that little last extra out of it right now is where I'm having the battle at. But I'm slowly working it around and get a little bit more here and there. I mean, we've been averaging a consistent 57, 58 out of it, with a couple of spikes over 60, and it just depends on the day and the chop, really. Like yesterday, we were fighting the wind pretty bad, and you didn't have to fight it so much cruising in the 40s as much as you did when you're really out of the water, singing it out there. And I think that's where we were losing a couple at yesterday, was having to use it to steer it, keep it in the water more. But overall, I mean, there's not too many negatives to really talk about on it. I mean, it's all a benefit, especially, 3 mile an hour. That's
Plus, we were
Awesome.
we were losing fuel yesterday. Also,
Oh yeah, well that was a fuel filter issue there.
Yeah, just a few hiccups. But is there any other points that maybe you can just, and for everybody out there that maybe watching this video is just my outlook for these two guys in front of you right now. They are they're incredibly smart with motors. They've been around boats for quite some time, I can tell you that. You know that when you get on the boat with them. I felt very safe, and we'll actually put a video up of us. How fast were we going in that video when
It was probably in the low 40s. He made me nervous laying up there taking that video, but you said you were fine, so I was like, okay.
So we took a video. We'll try and place some of that in, or put it at the end of this video of us, just so you can see the foil interaction with water. You know, at the low 40s, what Kevin said. So what we found, what I found yesterday with my GPS speedo on my phone, is that at between 42 and 44 miles an hour, Kevin and Mike's setup is just absolutely incredible. It just wants to run there all day, and you can obviously cover some ground, but it's awfully nice you guys got it hooked up there, you know. So is there anything else that maybe educationally you can just put out there for people if they were to do, say, a changeover, like you go from one motor, because that is actually, that's a point, right? You're able to go from a 90 horse and then put a 225, and you can't do that with an everyday foil, right?
No, you can. I mean, you could do it, but it's not going to gain anything. Like it'll gain a little bit, but you're getting into safety issues a little bit too at that point. But I mean, if you're going to put a bigger motor on it, just take it slow, work your way up, get used to it, find out what it likes and what it don't like, and we're still in the process of it, but it's coming around quick. It definitely is.
Oh, good point. Mike, what do you think? Anything else to add to it?
Well, Kevin's probably driven it more than I have, actually, but he doesn't ever give me the control too much anymore. But
he's afraid you'll put a higher speed up there.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
My reaction time's a little bit quicker.
Yeah, I mean it's fun. I mean it just takes some seat time.
The card burned out, so when we splice this together on the video, we're on a new card, and we actually don't have that long, so we're going to try and keep it to about 5 minutes.
I take up too much space.
So we're not, we took up too much space on the card. But I think we ended somewhere, just talking about the dial-ins and the re-entry of the boat after it came out of the water. So maybe if you could pick up there, Mike.
Yeah, that was part of the negatives. It's not really a negative. It's a little bit of a learning curve. It's just like anything more high performance. It takes a little bit of seat time to figure out
what it likes and don't like.
I mean it's when you start to push it to the edge, and sometimes you'll have the foil adjusted a little bit too far back, where it's going to lift the boat more. It'll start to rise up, and you'll be gaining speed, and it'll sort of drop down. And when it re-enters the water, it'll sort of veer left or right, and you've got to kind of deal with that. But it's not what I would say unsafe. But if you're not kind of looking for that could possibly happen, it would just catch you by surprise, and some people could overreact. But
that only happens when you're really pushing it.
Yeah. But it's to me it was kind of soft. I mean, we have a higher performance speedboat that it took a lot of seat time to figure that out, and we got kind of hurt a couple times in that. But you have to have a healthy respect for it, and just be aware of what could happen.
Yeah, higher performance boat is a 90-mile-an-hour rocket ship. That's a whole nother video someday. Right?
Yeah,
right.
It's a fun boat though.
Yes, it is.
It's very fun.
Definitely a fun boat. Yeah, so the dial-in period of your boat, admittedly, you guys are still doing it with the higher horsepower. How long did it take you with the 90?
For everyday cruising,
It was
for the 90, it was like an hour or two. I mean, we only had about 10 hours of runtime on the motor with the foil on it, and before I got bright ideas in my head to put the big motor on it. But you could run it all day. I mean, safely. You could drop it off the foil, like he's saying, basically doing a wheelie. The front of the boat is probably 4 foot off the water. It would pick up so high if you wanted it to, and it just still stayed up there. And I was like, it's amazing. And if you weren't real picky on top end numbers, setup could be as easy as, a couple of trips out running, or even one trip out. You'd be happy with it. I mean, without any setup work at all, it picked up over close to 16 miles an hour over what it was doing before, and that right there says everything about it. Because to do that without the foil, you're having to put a bigger motor on it.
Probably
you're
have to have
15 grand for a motor of that that caliber nowadays, so or more.
Yeah, that's a good point about the time that you put into it. Depends on how much you want to get out of it, right?
Yep.
So that's definitely a good point.
And then the fuel savings, if you just cruise all the time, you're cruising at what you used to top out before. So you're going to cover twice the distance.
Less than half throttle.
And that was the biggest eye opener for me. And then feeling the boat go over 40, and then over 50, then approaching 60, and tapping it a couple of times. It's unexplainable. It's just something you have to feel. And then the acceleration out of it too is just night and day compared to before. I mean, I wanted something that was capable of bow rider speeds like a runabout or better, but in a pontoon platform. And that's where we got it set up at now. So we've got a people moving boat, and then we've got a fast boat we just go out and play in.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Well, I think we're at 5 minutes on this video right here. So is there anything you want to say in closing? First off, can I ask this question? Are you guys being paid to say anything you're saying?
I wish I was getting paid.
Everything you got going is real data, right? We're not embellishing anything here. We want to educate the public on what a hydrofoil can do, and we want to keep all real data, and that's just an important thing for me at Pontoon Hydrofoil Applications and our VARA Foil community, or our pontoon gearhead community.
Right. I mean, I'd recommend it to anybody. We've had people in high performance boats and stuff that have been asking about it around here on the lake. So
when it makes them people laugh, you're doing something right.
Yeah, they're kind of amazed by it to see Grandpa's pontoon boat going 60. So.
All right, well, I think we'll close it up here, guys. Thank you for the testimonials, and can't wait to get out and ride on that machine, again.
Thank you for a killer invention.
All right.
It's been fun.
All right, thank you.